Hello viewers, welcome to APS Ophthalmology Pulse. Today we will discuss some of the preliminary aspects before starting retinoscopy. With regard to positioning, the examiner sits at a convenient distance, either 1, 2/3 or half a meter in front of the patient. The practitioner positions himself on the right side of the patient for retinoscopy of the right eye and vice versa. It is important that the examiner is seated as close as possible to the line of sight of the tested eye, as too large an angle will cause oblique astigmatism and an incorrect result. Ideally, a macular refraction must be performed, but if the examiner is seated in such a way that his or her head blocks the view of the tested eye and only allows the non-tested eye to focus the distant target, the obliquity of observation is less than 3 degrees. However, it is important not to block the view of the non-tested eye and to instruct the patient to let you know if this happens, because if it does, accommodation is stimulated and an incorrect result is obtained. During dry or non-cycloplegic retinoscopy, the room should be darkened so that the pupils are dilated sufficiently to be able to easily perform retinoscopy. This isn't a factor if performing wet or cycloplegic refraction, in which case the lights may be left on if so desired. If non-cycloplegic or manifest refraction is being determined, then the following measures must be taken. The examination room must be 6 meters long, that is almost the width of a badminton net, so the patient can fixate on a non-accommodative target at optical infinity, and also to prevent overplussing of the refraction. If the room is shorter, a mirror may be used to extend the distance of the image to 6 meters, but sometimes children find it difficult to look into the mirror. In such cases, the longer room is desired. The target should be a non-accommodative one, such as the top line of the Snellen chart or a dim light. Some practitioners prefer a large letter on a duochrome background. This dims the light, which in turn reduces the reflexes on the lenses. To further ensure accommodation relaxation, a quick retinoscopy of the eye not being refracted first is done, and if any width movement is noted, a plus sphere of about 1 to 1.5 diopters is placed in front of that eye. This is called fogging. Contrary to the situation in ophthalmoscopy, the refractive state of the examiner's eye is not involved in the process of retinoscopy. Where adequate accommodation is not possible, a cycloplegic refraction is necessary. The indications for a cycloplegic refraction are strabismus, especially in children with esotropia, pseudomyopia due to accommodative spasm, infants, toddlers, preschool children. Children have great accommodative amplitudes which can change the measurement of refraction. In a child who has no error of refraction, that is, who is emmetropic, significant myopia and sometimes astigmatism may be picked up if he or she accommodates. The only way to get an accurate measurement of refraction in children is to inhibit accommodation with the use of cycloplegic agents. Asthenopia, especially in children and young adults. Anisometropia, amblyopia, and when vision is not correctable to the predicted value. Suspected latent hyperopia at any age. Prior to refractive surgery. Uncooperative patients, patients with variable and inconsistent subjective responses, non-communicative patients, and those with suspected functional deficits. Today, its short duration of action and degree of cycloplegia next only to atropine make cyclopentolate the preferred cycloplegic of choice. In very young, including premature infants, 0.2% cyclopentolate along with phenylephrine is advocated. 0.5 and 1% are used in older children. It is instilled as 1 drop 2 times 5 minutes apart. Retinoscopy is performed within 1 hour after installation and its duration of action is 24 hours. Tropicamide 1% is a weak cycloplegic and may be advocated for older children and adults. It is instilled as one drop 2 times 5 minutes apart. It is occasionally used in children when other cycloplegics are not tolerated due to allergy or other side effects. The cycloplegic effect is very short in duration, and so retinoscopy must be carried out 45 minutes after drop installation. Its mydriatic action lasts 4 to 6 hours. Atropine is the strongest cycloplegic and was earlier advocated as the cycloplegic of choice. Because of its long duration of action of about 2 weeks, which can be both inconvenient as well as be a risk factor for inducing amblyopia, it is not preferred nowadays unless a very strong cycloplegic is required in certain cases of accommodative esotropia in children less than 5 years of age. It is instilled as 1% drops in children greater than 1 year and as ointment in infants 2 to 3 times a day for 3 days prior to retinoscopy, which is performed on the 4th day. Homatropin is used as an alternative to any of the other drugs as a 2% solution instilled as one drop twice 5 minutes apart. Retinoscopy is performed after 1 hour. It is less preferred because of its duration of action of 3 days. Even if cycloplegia is not required, the beginner will often benefit by mydriasis, which makes observing the reflex easier. In such cases, phenylephrine or tropicamide may be used. So that's it for today. If you like what you saw, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to never miss an update from AP's Ophthalmology Pulse. You may watch my other videos by clicking on the thumbnails. Please leave a note in the comment section if you wish for any particular topic to be covered in future. Look forward to regular updates. Thank you for watching.